Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Malians and how you can play Malians in three different ways. We're going to be looking at three build orders. One for the standard Malian Pro Scouts, which has been used in the tournaments. Currently we've just seen them in the grand finals and semifinals being played in a little bit of a unique way. So I'm very interested to show you guys how to play that out. Then we're going to be taking a look at a Dark Age defense. And then we're going to take a look at second town center just for fun. So I really think the most essential ones are the Pro Scouts one and the Dark Age defense, because a lot of players will deal with Dark Age defense when they're playing Malians with the pit mines exposed in the beginning. You need to know how to deal with that defense. And so there's a very different build that you can do there that leads you into the Feudal Age nicely. And then, of course, second town center. I know a lot of people want it, so I'm going to bring it, even though I don't think it's the best build. But as with everything, take it with a grain of salt and use the builds when you feel like they're the correct ones to go for. So let's get into it. So the first build we're taking a look at is the Malian Pro Scouts and how you can get Pro Scouts pretty damn quickly using the Warrior Scouts to attack enemy scouts going for deers and then building up javelins and spears to then play out the Feudal Age. The whole purpose of playing Pro Scouts is to contest map food. If you don't contest it and your opponent takes all the deer, you're gonna be forced to go for cows or farms really early. In general, you're gonna be lacking food where your opponent is not. They're gonna have high gather rate food, so we want to contest it. What you do is you pretty much stay in feudal until all of the deer has been gathered, and then because Malians is really good at fighting an age up, you can oftentimes just stay in feudal and start harassing after that while you build your cows. So it's fine to go for Pro Scouts into cows with a delayed age up. Really, a lot of the decision making you have to make depends on what your opponent is doing. So if you're dealing with a lot of aggression, stay in feudal. If they're going fast castle, go for a fast castle if you want to as well, with a couple of cows. You don't have to get a full setup. Anyways, I don't want to talk your ear off, so let's just get into it. What you want to do is you pretty much just want to start off with a standard opener, but we're doing something a little bit different. And this is the cool thing about this build. We're able to fit 7 houses around a pit mine instead of 6. And that gives us Pro Scouts pretty much instantly in the Feudal Age. So what you do is you, of course, queue up your builds. You send your scout out to the middle of the map. Then you take one of your builds, you start building the pit mine, and then gather with 5 villagers on the first straggler tree. And on another straggler tree, send your 7th villager. So that's the first villager you've created out of your TC. Send it on a straggler tree, and have that villager gather another 25 wood. So because they're going to exhaust the 150 wood here, the 5 villagers on their own, you want to send it to another straggler tree, just the 6th one here, and then have that guy gather 25 wood in total. So 2 drop-offs and a half. Then after that, rally onto food. Once these guys are done with the wood, go on food with them as well. And then just have this villager out here in the pit mine. Just build 7 houses. Simple as that. Then pretty much everything else is standard. Of course, you always want to scout your opponent. You want to figure out, are they going to Dark Age rush you? Because then things are a little bit different. And then you want to build a barracks now. And that's when I would say, if you haven't done Dark Age defense, then take a look at the next build after this segment. Here, we just come back with a scout. No reason to go super aggressive with the scouting. You want to get back with sheep before 2:30, I would say. Around that time, not later really, because if you're back too late with the sheep, because you're Malians, you're going to have a lot of villagers and food and a lot of idols if you're not back with sheep. So get back before 2:30, sometimes a little bit earlier than that. It's quite important to do so. So, safe scouting route, just check the opponent if they're doing a barracks rush or any type of rush, and then come back around, drop your sheep off. Gather, by the way, with this build here, once he's completed the 7 houses, just gather 10 gold, bring them back home for the drop-off, and then get him to food. Just a little optimization there. Getting another 10 gold helps get the Pro Scouts a little bit faster. All right. All we're doing now is we're just rallying onto food. We gathered 150 wood from this straggler tree, completely exhausted it, and then we've gathered 25 wood from this one over here. And so what we have is just enough for 7 houses, and now we go for the H up here, at about 250. That's your mark. Try to get that time, and then you age up with 5 villas. Pretty simple. Now we're at about 250 here. Actually, 245. We are going to age up with 5 villagers on the landmark, and then we immediately put another 5 villagers on the straggler tree, preferably the one that you've already gathered from. Here, the one villager over here starts bugging out a little bit, so you decided instead of going on this straggler tree, you wanted to go for this one over here. It's fine. We just rally to the next one. Don't really know what's happening here. Should be fine. They're gathering the straggler trees, so we can go on the lumber camp after. Then what we're doing is we're aiming to get about 9 villagers on wood, and then 9 villagers on food, and then you just rally food for the rest of the game. Or at least until you need a lot of gold, which could be for a faster cow transition. So you have to macro depending on what stage you are in the game. If you're over the pro scouts phase and you want to speed up your cows because your opponent went 2 town center or something crazy, then do so. That's fine. Just put 5, 6, 7 mils in gold and then start pumping cows. Get your second pit mine and all those things. But if your opponent's playing very aggressive, lean more into units. You will have a slow build-up of passive resources, so a long feudal doesn't bother you. Anyways, that's a little bit beyond this point that we are at currently. You're going to age up with the 5 vills. These vills go back to food after. Then right now you want to build a mill so that when you're aged up, you can queue up pro scouts. If you were a little bit slower in the age up, so let's say you started aging at 3 minutes, you will be able to queue it immediately. Here we're able to queue it right, after 10, 15 seconds because the Mansa Quarry will start gathering gold and we still got some ticks from the houses here. We start building our stable, we go for the pro scouts up, the warrior scouts upgrade, and we get our scouts out. And then we get, of course, pro scouts the moment we have the wood for it. So these guys have been gathering wood. They're going to drop off on the lumber camp. And then we queue up pro scouts. So here at about 440. There you go. We queue up warrior scouts as well. So pro scouts and warrior scouts. So you can get your normal scouts to go out and contest deer. So a lot of upgrades. All right. Then make at least, I would say, 4 scouts, because you're Malians. You can afford to go 5, 6, 7 scouts if you want to. Not necessarily for the purpose of contesting deer. They're also just nice to harass with. So don't be afraid to build more than 3 or 4 that you might be used to if you've been playing other pro scouts builds. Because they are really good at dealing with small amount of units. So they heal faster as well. And you feel good having quite a lot of scouts as Malians because they give you that mobility that you might lack from running a pretty much purely infantry-based composition. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that now. So for units, you're oftentimes going to go into a barracks after, but you're not going to produce sofas from the stable immediately. You're just going to stick with donzos out of the barracks and then javelins and archers. If your opponent's making a ton of spears, try to make a few archers, but stick with donzo javelins. It's a phenomenal raid force because javelins are so fast and have that ranged armor. You can go around the outskirts of enemy bases and you can afford to take a little bit of ranged fire because you can then get in, snipe vills. You have 9, 10 javelins, if not actually less than that. Let's check. Yeah, so they deal about 7, 8 damage. So you don't even need more than 8 maybe to start one-shotting villages. So it feels pretty good to have bunch of donzos, bunch of javelins, and if you decide to stay in feudal and your opponent's in castle and you fight an age up, you can also stay with a lot of javelins, just keep producing them, start making Musafati warriors as well, run a very diverse composition but with a focus on javelins, and you'll be able to still dish out a lot of damage to those armored units even though they have upgrades. Alright. Focus on the game. We are taking the deers, as you can see here. Warrior scouts moving incredibly fast, even with the deers. And we are making donzos and we are making javelins. And so this is pretty much the build. You are now in the feudal age. Now you have to respond to what your opponent is doing. Do you have to make more units? Do you have to go greedy for the second pit mine, start the cows already? You can do a lot of things because you'll have the deer. You can afford to do a long feudal. You can also go pretty quickly up to the next stage. There's a lot of opportunity for you. And so it's about what you want to do. Depending on landmark choices and stuff, I would say try to stick to Corral with the Grand Fulani. But if you are going to go for Farimba, you would do that if you were looking for a timing. And that timing can be something like you have a ton of javelins that you want to upgrade to Mansa javelins. And so the Mansa javelineers are incredibly strong because they have poison javelins. And so you can use those for extra efficiency against armored units and pretty much any unit in general. So that's an option for you as well. The Freeborn Warriors do pretty well against ranged units and for diving static defenses. But I would say overall you shouldn't really go for Farimba to get Freeborn Warriors. It's kind of not that strong. It's okay, but it's not that strong. Many of the other Malian units perform quite well too. So that's pretty much how you play it out. So yeah, I figured I would just show you a little bit from a game using this build so you can see what the harass part of it is about. So let's get to that. So here I'm going to show you a game using that same build order that I just showed you and how it's usually played out. So a lot of the times you're going to be contesting enemy deers, and you can do that with your warrior scouts. They're faster than normal scouts, and so you can often catch up to enemy scouts and deal with them. At the same time, you can also steal the enemy deers if you want to, and just try to, even if they catch up to you, just drop the deers off in random locations and be annoying like that. So that's pretty much how it's played out. You see something like spears, you can go for your own archer range and get archers out or javelins, or get the spears out too with the javelins and have that raid force that I spoke about just before. So that's a pretty good idea if you want to go ahead and do some damage. Oftentimes you want to defend your own deers. We've got deers over here as well. And these are currently the ones that are most accessible to our opponents. We place our Donzos there, of course, keeping 1 or 2 over here just right now. So pretty much what we're doing is we're just making sure that we at least get 2 deer packs, and then we use our early advantage of getting pro scouts quick with warrior scouts and the mobility boost to then try to contest the enemy's deer. That way we at least get more than 2 deer packs. Even if it's just a couple of deer carcasses, it often matters a lot more. If you have 3 more deer carcasses than your opponent, they have 3 less, and so you're actually ahead by a lot more than just, oh, I got 1 or 2 more deers. So you could use that advantage oftentimes to try to get a timing across, even if you have to play an age up, which is what is about to happen now. So my opponent just aged up to Castle Age. My opponent's playing Shuji's Legacy, so we know that he's got a very safe food economy under the mill. He's got a wood economy at the safe wood line. The only thing that's really exposed is the gold, but you can still get around the wood lines with javelins and scouts. So don't be afraid to stay in feudal. You're not under pressure in any way whatsoever to get to the Castle Age. The only problem for you is kind of mass spears and nesta bees. That's probably the only thing that counters everything you've got going. So that's something to watch out for. And even in that situation, I mean, a lot of the times it takes a lot of resources to get to that point. And that would be something for the later stages of the game to deal with. For now, we can use our Donzo throw, we can use our Javelin throw, and our archers to get around wood lines and do damage. We can use our scouts, kind of like English longbow rush, to peek into the wood lines and then do damage this way. So a lot of times you can just place your scouts over here, and then you can see into the wood line, just like this, and then start sniping the enemy's villagers. And this is incredibly annoying to deal with because he knows with this force that he's got here, which is only really 23 units, it's going to be kind of tough to deal with me. Because I will have more nonetheless, currently sitting on 40 units. And so, a couple of sofas raiding in the back line, disrupting the relic collection. You can be so annoying with the units you have here. So you don't have to get up to Castle Age that quick. Start a couple of cows, and then don't be afraid to age up when you have like 6 cows. You don't have to get 20. That's super greedy, and it's too many resources for you to ever get it back into the game. But if you're playing along Feudal Age, sometimes you'll have 10, 20 cows. And that's really good for you if you end up in that stage. It's kind of like English having 3 full farm setups. That's perfect because now we can full pump units and we will be able to take over army-wise, and our opponent will fall behind tech-wise if we decide to go that route. We have so many things we can do. But basically, we're done with Pro Scouts. We stay in feudal. We're not afraid to stay in feudal until we've taken a good fight. And once we've taken a good fight, or the resources are just there, and it makes sense for us, we can go castle. So for now, we're just contesting. We don't really want to show our whole army. We want him to stay in his base, and then if he decides to move out, we want to at least be up to Castle Age or ready to take a fight. So simple as that. Okay, so as you can see, more raids are coming through. We see has a lot of Shugenus and men-at-arms, or palace guards, I should say. So what we're doing is we're just going Castle Age now, because we know this Sofa raid will keep at least these spears, the 13 spears here, back at his base. And the scouts over here, maybe they'll keep them out. We're really just trying to stall him for as long as possible if we decide to go castle. And look at this, we're going castle with 6 cows. It's perfectly fine. Sometimes you'll lose your games if you decide to go for more cows. Because if he pushes me right now, with this entire force, plus all of this up here that we idled, and we didn't idle him on the sides, which is quite important, I would say, then you would start to struggle at this point. Sure, we have 65 units, and he's on 50, and he has his castle upgrades. But it's still a lot better to get to Castle Age now with almost 70 units ready to upgrade, because that means that he definitely can't push us. Sure, we're only going to get one relic in this game, but hey, you're Malians, you have so many extra passive resources, and the moment that he has to go farms, you're fine. That's when you can push. You can push before that too, but you're really not in a rush, because the longer your opponent gives you, the better. It's kind of like having a second town center. The longer you survive, the more economy you get. And so at this stage, we can kind of already see he wants to start turtling up a bit more. And so we go a little bit more greedy and afford some more cows, go for some more raids, come around the sides, take the javelins into the wood line, start to do some damage. Again, here you can just take your javelins, snipe out as many of the villagers as possible. We look at the villager kills here. We're sitting on 11 villager kills, plus we have the extra passive economy of currently 7 cows. And we can look to get a third pit mine soon, as we have just hit the castle age. Also idling out the granary transition. So the whole point of this is, Malians is one of those civs that uniquely can stay in feudal for so damn long without being in a rush to get to castle. A lot of Musafati warriors, a lot of javelins. They're all uniquely targeting the Shugnus and Grenadiers here, and crossbows. And so even a fight like this is incredibly good for us. So, hey, javelins and raids from the sofas, start going for the villager kills. And here, even if I lose all my army, it's still a pretty good situation, because I will have done so much damage. So yeah, that's how you play it out with Malians. And I guess now what we'll do is we will take a look at the next 2 builds. I'm not going to give video examples or replay examples, I should say, for those builds, but I'll just show you so you know how to defend. Alright, so the second build I'm going to show you is the defensive build, which is absolutely crucial to know if you're going to play Malians at any level, because a lot of times people will Dark Age rush you with spears, villagers, Dark Age man-at-arms from the English. There's a lot of different things that people will do in the Dark Age to try to interrupt your Malian pit mine setup and your eventual passive income. So what you want to do is you want to scout your enemy, you want to make sure that it's happening, and then you want to stay on wood until you've gathered 250 wood. That means almost 2 whole straggler trees. Once you've gathered 250 wood, we're going to take 2 villages off and go on food. So we have 3 villages constantly gathering wood for the whole time that we're making donzos and going up to the feudal age, so for lumber camps and such. So that's a lot of numbers. Stick to the build order. It's in the description, but I'm also going to show you. So 5 villagers on the straggler tree. Don't go on the wood line. Take the villager and build the pit mine. Build 4 houses. But the reason we don't got 2 houses, some people would say you should do that, is you'll end up building those 2 houses anyways, but they'll be under the TC. And I'm pretty confident that most of you will be able to defend 4 houses. So if you just do what the build order says. So 5 villagers on the straggler tree. Then we gather enough for a barracks and 4 houses. We send our scout aggressive. We want to check out, is the enemy going for spears? Are they going for bill rush? Whatever are they doing? And once you confirm that they're going for the Dark Age rush, you continue with the build. If not, you would just stop gathering wood here and just go for the standard build order, get up to the feudal age. So that's a pretty good way to tell when to go for one or the other. If you're confident that your opponent's playing a civ that wouldn't Dark Age rush you, then just go for the Pro Scout opener with the 6 on wood. But if you're not confident and you know that there's a high chance, let's say you're up against Ottomans, Mongols, HRE, then go for this build instead. Alright, so here at about 140, we're going to build a barrack. And that barrack is going to be constantly producing donzos until we have a defense going. But I would say typically you'll be able to just defend with 4 donzos. So build 4 donzos and they'll be able to snipe the villagers that are building towers around your pit mines. If your opponent's overcommitting to a lot of spears, let's say 8-10 spears, sometimes it's worth it to just go for the Saharan trade network instead. And that will act as a tower that can then defend your pit mine. So you would just place it on top of the pit mine. And then from there on out, you will play into the feudal age and you should be able to defend against the tower. So currently, we're just running food. We have that 3 villas on wood. And we'll be able to age up when the food float gets too big. We go for 4 Danzos, and then we get up to the fuel age. So let's speed it up a little bit. We'll be able to age up here at about 4 minutes. Here we're going up with 8 villagers on the Mansa Quarry. We like to get that landmark up quick. After a Dark Age rush, you want to get as many sort of speeds as you can. So something like the resources from the Mansa Quarry feels really good, because that's when you can get ahead. If you've had a successful Dark Age defense, it'll feel super good. Just getting to the fuel age a little bit faster than your opponent, and then be able to go into the standard plan, which can be Pro Scouts, which can be Chaos Setup, whatever it is you decide for it to be. So from here on out, focus on wood, rally on food, get your archer range out. If your opponent's going for something like a tower, you might have pulled the vills once to deal with that tower, and then you would have your archers and your Donso snipe the vill when it comes back to build the second time. So those are things to consider. Partially also why we want to age up quick, so we unlock the archer range, and so that we're able to build the counter units to the spears and the villager. I think the most important thing to consider here is when you should do your vill pull, and it's kind of hard to include in the video, but I would say you should only pull vills once. If you have to pull vills twice, then it's a lot of idle time, and I would say it's really, really important that you get up to the fuel age and get those archers out, so that you can actually get value out of your vill pull, because all your vill pull will do is it'll cancel the enemy tower, and they can just start building it again. So you need the archer to really fully deny it, or some really good Donso spear throws. What we're doing here is we're basically going Pro Scouts. So we got all the passive gold from the pit mine. So we just clicked Pro Scouts the moment we were in feudal age at about 540, so a little bit after. And then we start taking deers. So you can stick to the standard plan. Deviate a little bit in the Dark Age from the plan, and then get back to it. Start raiding with the Donso Javs, played out the same way that I outlined in the beginning of this video. So pretty simple like that. The game is often very different, so I don't really know if there's much more I need to show you here, but I would say stick to the plan, get the chaos going. You don't need a lot of chaos. Just make sure that your defense went successful and you didn't overinvest into defense, doing something terrible like double barracks opener or tower. You can oftentimes get away with a minimal amount of investment into the Dark Age defense and get up to the fuel age much faster than your opponent can, and still get a lot of value. So that's what I would recommend. And yeah, play out the game afterwards and you'll usually have a good time. So let's get to the last build. So for the last build I want to show you is the second town center, and I think this is more of a meme build. But I know that I'll get a lot of comments be like, how do I go for the second town center as Malians? When should I go for it? So what I'll do is I'll show you how to go for the second town center. And then I'll be honest with you and say the second town center doesn't have much viable plays currently. But even if it does become meta to go second town center again, you should be able to just use this build. Whether or not the gold will be increased or decreased, or the wood will be increased or decreased, the cost might change according to the patches. So again, try to go for the same build and then just make small adjustments depending on what the meta is like. So the meta changes all the time. Again, this is not a meta build right now, but it's one that you can use for fun in your team games. I think you're probably going to have a hard time climbing with it if you go for the 1v1 ladder. So up to you what you decide to do with this. What we're going to do is we're going to go for a second town center and try to get it down about 450 to 5 minutes. So we can get it down pretty quickly, kind of like English. And what we're doing is we're basically just gathering for the normal pit mine. And instead of going for like 6 houses or 7 houses that we do in the Pro Scouts build, we're going to go for 4 houses and then a mining camp, because we want to leave the villager over here gathering gold, because Malians, they need to gather wood and gold for the second town center. They don't need stone or full wood like Mongols do. So you are going to gather enough for 4 houses and a mining camp. Then you just rally food. So that's just one straggler tree, and then get up to the fuel age. So standard opener. But you make the mining camp and you leave the villager on the gold. Let him gather until you have the second town center. Then we're going to age up at about 2 minutes and 35 seconds. That should be your benchmark. You're going to age up with 3 villagers. So that's going to happen about now. All right. Age up with 3. Then leave 4 on food. and then pull one of your villas over to gold. So you have 2 villagers on gold. These 2 villagers, together with the pit mine and the houses, are gonna contribute all the gold you need to get second town center. The rest of your villagers are gonna gather wood. And so what I would recommend is gather the first straggler tree, make sure you have enough for a lumber camp, and then gather from the wood line, because there will not be enough wood under your TC. Then just leave a villa over there, continue gathering the straggler tree, rally onto the wood line, and then have a good time going for the second town center, gathering the resources you need. This should give you a pretty good synchronized macro where you have the gold and wood. So we're going to get to the fuel H. Just leave the 3 villagers on the landmark. And then the 2 villagers in the gold mine. Continue to rally on the wood line. And then pretty much here in about 15 seconds, we're going to be able to go for the second town center. The Manticore will gather a little bit of gold. The houses will come in with the gold. Once we have 450, we have enough for a second town center. Then we do a big drop off like this. These guys over here are going to drop off. And then we build the second town center. Build it defensive. Build it on the deers if you want to. You can do a lot with this. Only go for this build if you know your opponent's going to play passive as well. Because if they play aggressive, you're going to struggle a lot. So go for it if you want to have an alternative approach to dealing with somebody who's going to play passive, because the boom can be quite strong going for second town center. In general, you're going to be getting ahead of your opponent. And with the cow setup as well, pretty much doesn't get any greedier than that. But if you pull it off, it's going to be a crazy economy. And it feels pretty good. So that's pretty much it. Just make sure you have 4 villagers on the TC. On the food for every TC that you have. That would be 8 in total to maintain constant villager production from these 2 buildings. So yeah, something like that. Then you can decide to go units. You can start the cow production if you want to. I would recommend getting out on the deers and just gather them instead of doing pro scouts. But again, you would have to play it out the way that the game is unfolding for you. So that's pretty much it. If you have enjoyed this Malian guide, don't forget to like and subscribe. I know a lot of you aren't subscribed. And if you have any questions about the build, let me know in the comment section. I'll be there to answer. And yeah, check out the build orders. They are linked in the description. If you're interested in coaching, message me in Discord. I'll post my information right now. Ciao.